Today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew.
The air thickens as Tulsi Gabbard exposes Barack Obama, not merely shining a light, but tossing him into the glare like laundry on a high-speed cycle. Her critique is devastating, not through petty insults or cheap digs, but by unflinchingly revealing the contradictions, hypocrisies, and polished falsehoods behind his carefully crafted image, leaving the once untouchable former president squarely in her rhetorical crosshairs with no refuge from her relentless scrutiny.
It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week, and the documents that we will be releasing later this week that point to the undeniable fact that you laid out in your introduction.
Obama's carefully cultivated aura was always more illusion than substance. He presented himself as the polished media dream candidate, promising hope, unity, and change. Yet his tenure left behind drone strikes, mass surveillance, and a Democratic Party more enamored with elitist cocktail parties than working-class realities. And Tulsi Gabbard isn't swayed by the halo effect because she knows that halo was bought and paid for by Silicon Valley hype machines and Hollywood donations, seeing him not as a visionary leader but as a slick salesman who sold the country a product that fell apart.
It would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false.
Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Take Russiagate, for example. While Obama wasn't always the face plastered across CNN's daily obsession with alleged collusion, his administration laid the groundwork for intelligence overreach, surveillance creep, and the political weaponization of agencies that turned the whole episode into a circus, and Tulsi calls it out for what it is: a Democratic Party fixation that not only failed to take down Donald Trump, but backfired so spectacularly that the party now seems permanently hooked on conspiracy therapy, with Obama meant to be the wise elder statesman guiding the ship, instead leaving his fingerprints all over the same manipulation and cover-ups that made Russiagate a national embarrassment.
And so this is the thing that I think people should pay attention to, is neither the message from President Obama's office, neither the statements coming from Democrats in Congress today and their friends in the propaganda media. None of them are addressing this fact that there was a shift, a 180-degree shift from the intelligence community's assessment leading up to the election to the one that President Obama directed be produced after Donald Trump won the election, that completely contradicted those.
Then comes the irony. Obama rose as the anti-war candidate, the young senator who opposed Bush's Iraq invasion. Yet once in office, he morphed into a global interventionist, with Libya as his crown jewel of catastrophe. And Tulsi, whose career is grounded in anti-interventionist foreign policy, dismantles him like a mechanic taking apart an engine, showing that Libya didn't emerge as a beacon of freedom after Obama's NATO escapade, but became a failed state with open slave markets. A geopolitical disaster so blatant that even Hillary Clinton scrambled to shift blame while Obama faded into the shadows, exposing the truth that the man who sold himself as the alternative to endless war simply rebranded it, outsourced it, and wrapped it in a pretty
found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence, to undermine and usurp the will of the American people,
Almost comical how the media still treats Obama with reverence, as if questioning him is sacrilege, with journalists clutching their pearls at the mere suggestion that his presidency was a golden age for Wall Street and Silicon Valley, not for Main Street.
They are using the same old tactic that the deep state's propaganda arm in the media uses. Whenever they come across something that is true and that doesn't go along with whatever their narrative is that they're trying to shove down the throats of the American people, they first usually ignore it, as they did when I first released these documents a couple of weeks ago. They tried to ignore it when they realized that they weren't going to get away with this, that this story was going to continue breathing life. We continued releasing new documents. Then they decided, oh, we'll take this approach of say, oh, this is nothing. There's nothing really to see here. This is bizarre. This is a conspiracy. These are the things.
Tulsi doesn't play by the media's script, pointing out that under Obama, the same bankers who crashed the economy in 2008 weren't punished but rewarded, while the working class, the supposed backbone of his Hope and Change coalition, faced unemployment and an opioid epidemic. And Silicon Valley elites cheered as his administration rolled out a regulatory red carpet, paving the way for a tech oligarchy that now censors dissenting voices, including Tulsi's, with the real sting coming when she exposes Obama's duplicity on civil liberties, expanding the surveillance state and codifying the NSA's ability to spy on Americans while posing as a constitutional scholar. And as a veteran who served in uniform, Tulsi makes it clear that Obama didn't just betray voters, he betrayed the very principles he claimed to embody, circling back to Russiagate like a relentless boomerang as Obama presided over intelligence agencies that, in the twilight of his presidency, chased flimsy allegations of Trump-Russia collusion.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though.
Later, the Russiagate saga unraveled into a marathon of conspiracy theories with no collusion proven, endless taxpayer dollars wasted, and the Democratic Party left red-faced, and Tulsi doesn't sugarcoat it. Obama's legacy is tied to that mess, because it was under his watch that the seeds were planted, nurtured, and fertilized. He's the gardener of the weeds the Democratic Party still trips over. While she also sees through his greatest talent, illusion management, as he floated above scandals, with a grin and a carefully timed Netflix deal while the economy limped along and stagnant wages persisted, always someone else's fault, and while Obama let the myth machine do the heavy lifting, Tulsi refused to buy it, seeing the record of a man who built a legacy not on achievements but on marketing. Perhaps most sharply critiquing his cultural persona as the ultimate unifier, the bridge between red and blue, black and white, and young and old.
The second thing I want to address that's very important, Laura, is that you in the clip that you played, you saw John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey stated with high confidence this January intelligence community assessment that they drafted at the direction of President Obama. The fact is that they used already discredited information like the Steele dossier. They knew it was discredited at that time, yet they used it as a source for this document that they claim to have high confidence in. They used intelligence that some of these intelligence community professionals rejected previously because of the lack of credibility and the lack of the ability to vet.
11. Tulsi exposes that under Obama's tenure, America grew more polarized, racial tensions sharpened, and the Democratic Party calcified into an elite club where working-class concerns were drowned out by identity politics theater, turning Obama into the patron saint of neoliberal elitism, with Tulsi showing no patience for performative politics that leave every day. Americans worse off while elites toast champagne at Martha's Vineyard, and she critiques his obsession with legacy memoirs, speeches, foundation, and attempts to frame history in his favor, minding that legacy isn't a well-curated book tour or Netflix special but the real-world impact on people, which, in Obama's case, meant Middle Eastern civilians killed by drone strikes, whistleblowers jailed for exposing government crimes, and a Democratic Party turned into a coastal elite echo chamber. She also targets his failure to challenge entrenched powers within his own party, noting that 8 years passed without reforming the Democratic National Committee into a vehicle for genuine democracy, leaving it hollowed out, corrupt, and rigged, a machine so rotten it couldn't beat Donald Trump in 2016. with hand-picked leadership unable to inspire anyone outside cable news studios and faculty.
If not, go to odni.gov, It's all right there for anyone to see. And those who go in and read this will see how President Obama directed that a National Security Council meeting be called to talk about Russia, that the report that came out of that meeting was filled with tasks that were delivered by James Clapper's assistant to John Brennan and to other elements of the intelligence community. John Brennan was the head of the CIA at the time, all saying per the president's direction, per the president's order. And very specifically, they were tasked to create an intelligence assessment that detailed how Moscow tried to influence the election, not if.
111. That's why Tulsi's critique of Obama hits with such brutal force. It isn't fueled by bitterness or personal vendetta, but by lived experience and an unflinching assessment of reality. As she has no patience for the myth of Obama, the savior, seeing instead Obama, the operator, the man who perfected political branding while failing the very people who trusted him. And while much of the Democratic elite treats him as untouchable, defending him to avoid admitting their own complicity, Tulsi remains immune to their worship, slicing through it with the precision of someone who has served, witnessed the cost of political games, and knows the price ordinary Americans pay when elites like Obama play hero on the global stage while dodging accountability at home, delivering a takedown that isn't spectacle but a controlled demolition, exposing the crumbling foundation beneath the glossy paint, showing that Obama promised transformation but delivered a continuation of the same establishment rot he claimed to oppose, laid bare, line by line, policy by policy, scandal.
The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the.
Obama isn't the shimmering figure of nostalgia that MSNBC sells. He emerges as a master manipulator of narrative. A man who built his political empire on smoke and mirrors while leaving chaos, division, and betrayal in his wake. And that's the brilliance of Tulsi's takedown. She doesn't just dismantle Obama the myth, she forces America to confront Obama the reality. And once that veil is lifted, there's no going back, as the political establishment clings to him like a polished museum relic. Untouchable to criticism, but Tulsi sees past the carefully lit portrait of hope and change, seeing the cracks, the hypocrisies, and the rubble he left behind, with a myth built on illusion promising hope, unity, and change but delivering drone wars, mass surveillance, Wall Street bailouts, and a Democratic Party stripped of its working-class soul. While the man who sold himself as the anti-war candidate became a global interventionist, leaving Libya in ruins, civilians under drone strikes, and the Middle East further destabilized, and Tulsi slices through the branding to reveal a simple truth: Obama didn't end endless wars.
President Obama delivered the conclusion that he wanted the intelligence community to reach and directed them to find and essentially create and manufacture the intelligence to support the conclusion that President Obama wanted to deliver to the American people. Once that document was drafted, the deep state kicked into gear and did what they usually do. They started leaking this classified information out to their friends at the Washington Post and others who are working hand in glove with the deep state to lay the groundwork for the assessment that they eventually released that served as the basis once again for this years-long coup with the goal of trying to subvert the American people's will and usurp President Trump from being able to deliver on the mandate that the American people gave to him when
Russiagate, the Democratic Party's favorite obsession. And Obama wasn't a bystander. He was the architect of the intelligence overreach that made it possible, resulting in years of taxpayer-funded hysteria, zero proof of collusion, and a party still reeling from its own conspiracy-fueled missteps. With Tulsi making it clear that Obama's fingerprints are all over the mess Democrats pretend to have moved past, and while the media polishes his halo, she highlights the reality. He didn't punish the bankers who wrecked the economy but rewarded them, didn't empower working-class Americans but abandoned them, and didn't protect civil liberties but expanded government spying while cracking down on whistleblowers, turning what was billed as the audacity of hope into the audacity of hypocrisy. And culturally, despite marketing himself as the great unifier, a bridge across divides, polarization deepened, identity politics hardened, and the Democratic Party became.
The same assessment was made after Donald Trump was elected by the American people as president in 2016, defeating Hillary Clinton. And it wasn't until after that polled president's daily brief document that you referenced that the Principals Committee was called in the National Security Council, and President Obama then directed Obama's DNI James Clapper to lead the effort to create this new intelligence community assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow attempted to influence the outcome of the U.S.
And Tulsi doesn't let Obama off the hook, exposing how he turned the Democratic Party into a hollow doubt machine so corrupt and incompetent it couldn't even stop Donald Trump, highlighting his obsession with legacy. As since leaving office, he has meticulously curated his image like a Hollywood director scripting the perfect ending with Netflix deals, polished memoirs, and a global foundation, all designed to present him as the